Judge has dismissed a Tulsa Massacre reparations lawsuit that was expected to go forward. Let's put up the picture full mass. I would give you the about face of this judge. Oklahoma judge has now dismissed a lawsuit seeking reparations in Tulsa, Oklahoma. A lawsuit was filed, if you remember, back in 2021 by the remaining survivors, Viola Fletcher, Leslie Benefield Randall, and Hughes Van Ellis. They targeted the Board of County Commissioners, Tulsa Metropolitan Area Planning Commission, the County Sheriff Office, along with the Oklahoma Military Department, Tulsa Chamber, and the Tulsa Development Authority. They were children when the massacre occurred over 100 years ago today. Let's keep that picture up because I want to remind everyone, this was in fact a terrorist attack. We call it a massacre. I've heard other people call it a riot. There's no riot when one side has all of the weapons, all of the advantages, and all of the law to support them and protect them. What they did was they decided to engage in acts of domestic terrorism and coordinated with official authorities of government to do so, to cover it up. These are the survivors of that attack. They were children when it happened. Let me give you background on the case. According to a 2001 report by a state-sponsored commission, the terrorist attack erupted May 31st, 1921, after a white mob attempted to hang a 19-year-old black teenager shoe shiner named Dick Rowland. Rowland had been riding in an elevator with a white teenager named Sarah Page, who reportedly screamed, resulting in a white mob falsely accusing Rowland of sexual assault. As tensions escalated, black residents of Greenwood went to the court to defend the shoe shiner, but they were outnumbered by their white counterparts. The next day, June 1st, 1921, the black neighborhood endured 24 hours of looting and arson at the hands of white rioters. Now, I want to pause on this point just for a quick second. Back then, if you were a black business owner and you were required to have insurance, insurance companies would specifically disallow any claim based on a racial attack, be it a riot or something like this, which is terrorism, okay? They refuse to cover it. There's more. We just heard people running and screaming and could smell smoke, seeing houses burning and people getting shot, falling dead, said Fletcher, one of the survivors, now 109 years old, told CNN. She continued saying, quote, in every direction you look, really there was something going on and we always wondered why. Nobody had time to tell. Legal action seeking justice and accountability. The remaining survivors sought to establish a dedicated fund for victims and their descendants, seeking redress for the racial attacks that ravaged the Greenwood district in 1921, resulting in the death of 300 people and the destruction of a thriving black community. The aftermath of this attack left damages accounting to tens of millions of dollars in today's currency, eradicating generational wealth within the once affluent neighborhood. The victims also demanded an official acknowledgement from the defendants that the massacre constituted a public nuisance under the Oklahoma state law, affecting the former black residents of the Greenwood district and the offspring. They claimed the city and insurance companies failed to compensate them for their losses. And the city officials actively hindered efforts to rebuild their community. And as a result, the riot destroyed the economic standing. Let me give you the damages. As determined by the commission's findings, the estimated total cost of the damages adjusted for today's value is $27 million. The report also indicates that over 1,250 homes and 2 hospitals were destroyed, leaving a scorched path of racial violence encompassing 35 blocks. And what they don't mention is the psychological damage that it did beyond that moment that continues today in the body of a 109-year-old woman that just got denied her opportunity at justice before passing on. The defendants' argument. The defendants argued that some plaintiffs had not directly proved they suffered because of the massacre and that the court could not provide redress for the alleged damages. Additionally, the U.S. Court Judge James O. Ellison had previously ruled in 2004 that the victims were ineligible for reparations due to the considerable time that had elapsed since the massacre occurred, even though people who went through it are still living and adversely affected to this day. Damn shame. But this is the country we're in today. So when anyone champions a policy that is also supported by people like Ron DeSatan, you need to check yourself. Jeff, thoughts?
I want to remind people that Viola Ford Fletcher, the oldest living survivor of the Tulsa Race Massacre, wrote a book called Don't Let Them Bury My Story, which is so appropriate yet so layered of a title because, as we know, 102 years after this massacre, there are still Black people in their history buried under Oklahoma soil right now. And as you said, the distress, the damage lived on forever. So I don't understand. I don't even know what else to say about how horrible of a decision this is. Like, this is awful. But we also know that Tulsa wasn't the only city in America that this was done to.
That's right.
The moon bombing in Philadelphia, my word, that was only, 30-something years ago. So horrible decision.
Yeah, according to some narratives, some books have come out, you had hundreds of these destructive, dangerous mobs all over America coming after Black cities that were thriving. And I will say this in closing about the story. I don't think this is over. This is something that obviously Democrats should speak to. This should be at the highest level of government to articulate why this is important, why this is a tragedy, why this ruling is wrong, and what can we do about it. That's not being said. It needs to be quickly.